Welcome to episode 82.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Who Did That Voice, where we take an in-depth look at voiceovers.
Ready to take a vacay, but you just don't have the time to plan? Let the agents at 3D Travel Company pamper you and take care of all the little details. Find us at www.whodidthatvoice.co and click the Book Now button on the left-hand side. For a limited time, Who Did That Voice listeners can receive a Disney gift card for qualifying Disney and Universal trips, booked and traveled by 2017. Hurry and book today so you can travel away.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at voiceover. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know we have launched a Patreon page. You can find us at www.patreon.com/whodidthatvoice. What is Patreon, you say? Well, it's a lot like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign that allows you to help support us on a monthly basis. For as little as $1 a month, you can help support the show and earn amazing perks. Help us out today and join the Who Did That Voice family in a new way. Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. Today's two special guests are from That's Voiceover. We're going to talk about a lot of amazing things, how they met, how they created their company, and so much more. Stay tuned for an amazing episode. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Who Did That Voice. Today it is my distinguished honor to be bringing you not one but two very special guests, Miss Joan Baker and Mr. Rudy Gaskins. You two, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Yay.
Oh,
Pleasure to be
Karen,
here.
we actually heard you were looking for Will Smith and Jada, so we decided that we'd show up on the call.
Well, I really cannot thank you guys enough for showing up today. It's been, I've been really looking forward to this. I've heard so many wonderful things about both of you and about some of the wonderful things we're going to discuss today. You know, the very first thing we always like to start off with when we have a special guest or two special guests on the show is to get to know them a little bit better. And so, Joan, we're going to start with you. Who was little Joan Baker, the young girl that grew up into the woman she is today? And how did she get into acting and more specifically voice acting?
Well, I do like to start by saying that I was brought up by a pack of wolves. Rudy knows this story. No, I grew up in Marin County. And I grew up in the late 60s and 70s, and it was a very hard time for someone like me. My mom black, my dad white, and that brought its own set of issues and also highlights.
Yeah.
It probably made me stand out amongst the pack. It wasn't always in a great way, but the thing that saved me was I had very strong dreams. I always wanted to be a dancer, an actress, and a humanitarian.
Wow. And
that never wavered. No matter what happened to me, no matter what was said to me, no matter how doors closed, I just kept acting, dancing, and giving. And so eventually, my dreams took me to New York. I was on scholarship at Alvin Ailey, which was literally like being in the Navy SEALs. I kid you not. It was boot camp.
Wow.
And so I did 5 classes a day, 5 days a week, in all styles of dance. I really, truly had a different path for me. I thought I was going to be a dancer in Alvin Ailey, and then I thought I would move to L.A. and become a movie star. Kind of didn't work that way, but how it did turn out was actually even better than what I dreamt. But I've also never worked so hard in my life. And dance really prepared me for that because it brings out discipline. It also brings out focus. Like no matter rain, sleet, snow, blizzard, it doesn't matter. You keep showing up.
Yeah.
And you keep building. So that's always been in me too. So once I moved to New York, I became a dancer, and then eventually I wanted to make money. So I saw an ad in Backstage magazine, and the ad said cartoon character and regular voice. And at the time, I was a kind of a personality on cable, and cable was not cable like it was today. It was literally like a light hanging from the ceiling, swinging, right, and a camera.
Yeah.
So I was already doing a personality that had a character voice. So when I saw that ad, it just kind of lit me. So I went to the coach. Her name was Joni, like my name, and I thought, well, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And next thing you know, I did 4 classes at the time, and I did a demo reel. And then that demo reel was my ticket, and I got an agent. I signed with Don Buchwald and Associates on Valentine's Day.
Aww.
And then from that point on, my life completely changed. I mean, completely changed. Before that, I could not get arrested, Terrence. Could not.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then that led to Mr. Gaskins.
Wow. Well, we will definitely dive into that in a moment. But
Yes.
Rudy, for the same question for you, how did you, the young boy Rudy growing up, how did he get into the industry, entertainment world, and how did you get into marketing and voiceover and all of that as it entails?
Well, I've never thought about how that all happened, really. But here's what occurs to me. When I was growing up, which was in Washington, D.C., so I grew up in a heavy political environment,
Yeah.
and in fact thought I would probably be a politician because I liked the way they stood on a stump and did their thing.
Oh,
But
I didn't know that.
I was always a behind-the-scenes kind of person. All of my sisters and aunts were big singers. So in my house, there was always someone on the piano, and everybody was always doing some kind of performance.
Wow.
While I
And
did do a
recording
little
records.
James Brown, I was not one to, to harmonize and sing in front of the group or to go to the church and sing. So I just sort of wound up watching what was happening and thinking about how could it be made better. And I just kind of became a behind-the-scenes person in that way.
Yeah.
And I was able to be helpful to them as a behind-the-scenes person. So I'll organize the band and get everybody here on time and help produce what the show will look like. So without even calling it managing or producing, that was just a role that I sort of organically took on. And now that you asked that question, I see how that sort of manifested throughout my life. So I eventually wound up in film school at New York University, where, again, you're managing behind the scenes. You're hiring the actors and the other talent, writing the scripts, and figuring out ways to, do gun scenes down New York City streets without getting arrested. So,
Not upsetting the politicians in Washington, D.C.
yeah.
That's wonderful.
So
wow.
but when I went to college, I didn't take up filmmaking right away because it had been such an art form for me at the time. I learned filmmaking as an art form.
Yeah.
And didn't understand it on the commercial level. So I went to college and started in architecture, and it took me 2 years of studying architecture to put it together that, I can do film. I don't have to do this. Not that I didn't like architecture, but it just wasn't my first love.
Yeah.
And once I got wind of filmmaking as a commercial entity, then I took off to New York City, went to NYU, and became a filmmaker. And from there was working for television networks, and most especially a number of industries, movie industries, companies, and on the feature film side. So I worked with people like Spike Lee and Jonathan Demme and Francis Coppola, and that's where I cut my teeth in the sound departments of many of their films before I eventually started working on the picture side. But I cut my teeth in sound engineering and doing Foleys and recording sound for, these major directors who I had only read about in books.
Yeah.
And so that's how I sort of found myself in this world of filmmaking, which you have to understand marketing to do filmmaking. So, you listen and you learn, and all of that stuff for me pretty much came through on the job training.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well, I was thinking, kind of going back to your architecture story, Rudy, I was kind of thinking, you couldn't be a politician, so you were going to build the stumps for the politicians to stand on, right?
Right.
Which,
I came up in the age of Nixon, so I would have been building prisons.
Oh, okay. Well, but if you think about it, if you had been in architecture and not gotten into this, entertainment industry, some of your stumps that the politicians may have stood on probably would have lasted far longer than any politicians' careers.
Yeah, for sure.
But, and I know NYU, as far as film school goes, they're okay. No, I'm just kidding. But that's fantastic that you were able to go there. I know they have a very highly acclaimed program, and that's wonderful that you were able to study there for sure.
Yeah. It was a tremendous experience.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Well, there's a question I have for the two of you that's kind of a joint. And how did you two lovebirds meet?
Well, the good news is we met through work.
Okay.
And I think that's a really great bonding.
Yeah.
But at the time, for me, there's kind of two sides to the story. So my side was in pursuing voiceover, which was an 24-hour pursuit in terms of work, even with a talent agent. I saw a booking slip in my agent's office, and it said, Good Morning America Radio. And I was like, Good Morning America has a radio? So I started making phone calls to ABC, and eventually I got led to the creative services department. And I spoke to a woman there, and I told her that, I said, I'm going to be in the neighborhood. I'd love to drop off my demo reel. And she said, sure, I can meet you downstairs in the lobby. Now, I didn't really know how television networks were set up at the time, so I didn't really know what creative services was. I just knew they hired voiceover talent. So I met this woman in the lobby. She took my demo reel. That was on a Monday. On a Friday, I called to follow up, and she said, Joan, I put your voiceover demo on my boss's desk. They haven't looked at it yet, but I'm sure, they'll listen to it. That was at 11 o'clock. By 3 o'clock, and this is when beepers first started coming into existence. At 3 o'clock, they were calling my voicemail. And I had gone to a restaurant at 5 o'clock. It was almost 5 o'clock. I'd gone to a restaurant. I go check my messages, and I'm getting all these messages. Joan, you got a booking at ABC News. You got a booking. Why haven't you called us? It's at 5 o'clock. It was literally 4 minutes to 5.
Oh, wow.
I saw the waiter bring the food to the table. I got it in a bag. I paid the bill. I jumped into a cab. I went to ABC News. I got out, went through the lobby, went to the elevator. The elevator door opened, and there was Rudy with a clipboard. It was 5 on the nose. 5 on the nose.
Wow.
Now, the interesting thing about it was that Rudy was actually the only person at ABC News with dreads. He had dreads halfway down his back.
Wow.
He was the only African American I saw, so I was actually really, really impressed.
Yeah.
And so he directed
I know how to
me
impress
on.
the ladies.
That's what it's all about, Rudy, man.
And we did talk a little bit, and then I went into the booth and I got directed on this campaign for women. With World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Oh my gosh, I love Peter Jennings.
Let me jump in and add something to the other half of that story, because I was obviously already at ABC at this time, and ABC up until that point had only used men for voice acting for the past 7 or 8 years.
Wow. Okay.
It didn't strike me as anything unusual, because I was pretty much new to voiceover too. I mean, I was a producer and writer of promos, and working with voice actors was something that just sort of came with the territory.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I had been trained as a director, and so I was familiar with working with actors, and so I loved the fact that voice actors had to come in. Like, really, actors every day? I'm going to work with actors every day? So that was great. But we're doing this piece for the late Peter Jennings, and it is about women's health care. The whole week is going to be about women's health care issues. And so it struck me that we should probably have a female voice on this, someone who can actually speak to women.
Yeah.
And so I asked my boss, who Joan was waiting to listen to her demo reel. This is on the day while Joan was at the restaurant. And I said, maybe we should use a woman. He said, oh, okay. And then that very secretary that Joan had been in touch with overhears our conversation and screams out, Joan Baker's reel's been sitting on your desk. Why don't you listen to it? And so he notices it. We listen, and we said, sounds like she'll do. And so we called her agent. That's on our side. There was no big audition. There was nothing. It was just like, okay, that'll work. And so we're just ready for Joan Baker to show up. Had no idea that in her world, all hell was breaking loose.
Yeah.
This opportunity for a voice actor.
Sure she'll
They
do.
were freaking
ABC
out.
News Network.
Yeah.
Wow. And they probably realized that only men had been doing that. So for them to say, holy cow, not just did she get an audition, but she's the first female in
That's
almost
right.
a decade.
No, they
you know,
were
so
freaking out.
wow.
And even in the
Wow.
call, they were like, "How'd you do it? You got a job at ABC News."
It's iconic. It's very historic, you know, especially for an African American woman, you know. So
Yes.
wow.
And like I said,
Wow.
Rudy was the only African American at ABC, and we came together. And by the way, they were teasing Rudy before I got there. Jane, the woman,
Wow.
she said, your girlfriend's coming, Rudy. She had no idea I was single. Or
Yeah, it was a strange day. But she had met Joan because remember she went downstairs and met her at the lobby. So she
Wow.
had already started this kind of matchmaking thing going on in her head. I had no
I love
idea.
that woman.
That's so
All I know
funny.
is, okay, everybody's playing this. Rudy's girlfriend's coming over. And,
Wow.
of course, when she showed up, I said, well, okay.
And
We can
it was
talk about
Rudy's
it.
birthday.
Oh.
That day was Rudy's birthday.
Oh, how special.
So in essence, Terrence, I was his gift. I was his birthday gift.
That is super cute, you guys. I love it. Well, wow, that is such a great story. And, you know, I don't know if they've interviewed you for Black History Month, Joan, but they should definitely, both of you for sure, should get interviewed for that, you know. But I think it's so iconic that you guys have kind of broken through the forefront of so many things, especially, you know, for the African-American community, which is fantastic in the industry that's already kind of a niche, but already kind of breaking through some other barriers that have been, you know, hurdles for people in the previous years before things happened. So it's fantastic. It's wonderful to hear these stories.
You know, I think it's funny too, Terrence, because both Rudy and I, we never set out to break barriers. Trenton, we never set out to break anything.
Yeah.
But what I did notice when we came together was that we were both people that wanted to make a difference.
Yeah.
In our lives and in the world around us. And I thought that was just an observation. And I thought that was very unique because usually when people get together, like, for example, one believes in therapy and one doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So they're like opposites. But when we got together and as we were discovering each other, I realized, I said, it's like we're alike. And we're both givers, and we both want to make a difference, and we both care about people, and we both care about ourselves. I was really blown away, privately and secretly.
And mind you, when we were listening to Joan's demo reel in the office, there was no way you could have recognized that she was African American.
Yeah.
No way. It was a total, you know, straight American kind of sound.
Yeah.
And it didn't even hit me that she would be white either.
Yeah.
Just all we were listening for was, is that voice going to work for the project that we have?
Yeah.
And we heard a sound that seemed like, okay, yeah, that would work. And so we moved forward. So I was surprised when I met her as well to see that she was, you know, in the clan, so to speak.
So both of our jaws dropped, hit the floor, and rolled under the couch, Terrence.
Well, you know, that is really special, you guys. I really love that y'all have shared that story with me. It's very special, very intimate, and very historic, iconic, I think. So thank y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do thank the heavens every day. I really do. I couldn't have dreamt this up better.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a wonderful story. They could actually turn that into a movie, I think. That would actually make a really good film.
Well, guess what, Terrence?
What?
They turned our wedding into a book.
Oh, wow.
Someone wrote about, because that also was iconic.
Wow.
Again, we weren't trying to be.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, I don't think too many people can say their wedding was turned into a book.
Well, it was actually turned into a scene in a book.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's pretty iconic. I don't think many people could say that.
I'll take a scene.
Yeah, I'll take a scene in that book. But, you know, Joan, I would love to know a little bit more about you in regards to teaching. I know you got into teaching in the voiceover industry, I believe. And how did all of that come to be for you?
Well, you know, it's funny because when I was a dancer and I got approached to teach, which I did, it actually left a bad taste in my mouth because when I look back, it was when I was 21, so I didn't necessarily understand a lot of things. And the person that was my boss was a tyrannical. Although she was very famous in the dance world, her personality was that of a tyrannical, so it kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth for teaching. So I never even thought about teaching.
Yeah.
but it landed in my lap. And so every day I would go to acting school. I studied acting my whole life, and I was in a class at this time with a lot of seasoned actors.
Yeah.
And the teacher was also renowned. So every day before the lesson, the teacher would ask the class, what work have you been doing? Every time I'd always raise my hand. In voiceover, you get the 30-second spots, the 60-second spots, as opposed to the soap opera, the theater piece. So I was always raising my hand talking about jobs. So the school offered me a position to teach. I really thought about it because of the past experience, and I thought, you know what? There's only 5 students in the class. I said, I'll do it. But it turned out to be a revelation to me, because not only was I able to teach what I was actively learning in voiceover, literally on the job, but also I was able to understand the plight of voiceover because I was able to talk about it as a teacher to my students.
Yeah.
So I would talk about my auditions. I would talk about the jobs, and I was able to laugh at some of it because some of it wouldn't have been funny if I wasn't able to talk about it.
It was kind of therapeutic for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. But from that platform, I decided that I can't live without teaching. I loved it. So then I started creating classes, and I didn't know anyone that was doing this in New York, where I would bring in guest speakers that were like the producers I was working with at Showtime, or the producers I was working with at HBO, or the producers that I was working with. I had auditioned for the David Letterman show, for example.
Oh, wow.
And it was down to 2 people, me and the woman that got it. So I was working with, I decided to ask the producer, so it was also my way of networking, which it turned out to be. So I asked the producer to come in. He came in and spoke to the class and talked about the process, and at that point it was between me and the woman that got it. So we were really be able to talk about on the job, moment to moment, real, how it was working out in voiceover. So people were eating it up, and next thing you know, I was teaching, seminars and classes. It just kind of built. I was on radio talking about my classes, all because I was able to use it as a platform. Was what was happening right now in voiceover. And I didn't know anyone else that was doing that. So it ended up being classes that I was teaching that I would have wanted to be in myself.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's grown. And then once I met Rudy, and Rudy came to a class that I was teaching at an acting school, and he said, I'd love to teach with you. And I was like, see what I meant, Terrence? I was like, we're both alike.
Wow.
He was like, I'd love to teach with you. So we created a class where we taught in a loft, and it was the voice actress perspective and the producer perspective. So again, this theme of real life, tangible voiceover acting was happening.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that was doing that. And it was really, truly exciting and really, truly profound work.
That's
wonderful.
wonderful.
We could speak from what was happening right now and teach from that aspect. And people were eating it up. And I really found that I enjoyed working with Rudy. I mean, it was natural. It wasn't even like, we have to work this out. It was just we totally came together. That's how we realized we worked well. I remember when he was at Food Network and he was heading up the creative services, and I would, go to meet him at night. He would tell me about his day, and I would think, I wish I was his secretary, or I wish I was his assistant, because I knew, Trenton, that I would kind of bring something to the table for Rudy that could also really have him shine, just because I knew him well, and I knew that I would work well with him. And as it turned out, it was really true. And people ask us all the time, they go, I don't know how you work with your husband, or how do you work with your wife? I could never do that. I could never not do that.
Yeah.
It was just a total match from the beginning. And we discovered it. Unfortunately, everything happened, Trenton, organically.
That's wonderful.
And then Rudy definitely has a perspective of teaching that he gets too, that I just find when I overhear him teach, I just go, God, I wish I was that person on Skype, or that person in person, because it's just juicy, coming from the director's perspective. Plus, Rudy studied acting, so you don't really find that a lot with directors. But he also studied acting, just so happens. So
diverse,
he can
Rudy.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Wow. Well, tell us a little bit about some of the
I do my
teaching
best
you've
work
done.
listening to Joan. She's my inspiration.
Wonderful. Well, that is
Oh.
good when you can fuel off of each other for sure. That's awesome. Well, Rudy, talk a little bit about some of the teaching that you've done, and as well, you're a branding specialist / guru, if you will, on on the world of branding and marketing. You're the creator and CEO of Push Creative Inc., I believe, or is that a founding thing that y'all partnered together on?
We did actually partner on it, but at that time when Push Creative was created, Joan was really 100% doing voiceover and teaching. And so I really took the reins with Push Creative and then sort of slowly but surely convinced Joan, because she's got extraordinary networking skills and a natural way of being with people, because she really appreciates and loves people. And so as a salesperson, she was the go-to person.
Yeah.
In fact, once she started helping us on the sales side with Push Creative, other people from other agencies were trying to get her from me.
Oh, wow.
Fortunately, what they didn't realize was I had a marriage license. So
I love it. Wow.
So I was able to keep her on our side. But Joan's networking skills and her ability to just sort of be with people rather than sell people made a huge difference in our initial success.
Wow.
And I was smart enough to realize that was a huge value, and just kind of let it go, and really appreciated that we had that element, especially as a startup.
Wow.
On the teaching side, like Joan said, we started working at it together, and what I picked up on, being someone from inside the networks, was that students were lacking a director's perspective.
Yeah.
And when you're learning only from other voice actors, you're not going to be able to get a full sense of the world of voice acting and how voice actors actually get hired and what people are thinking about before they even call in an audition.
Yeah.
So I'm looking and I'm watching. I'm saying, okay, well, it's one thing to learn how to be malleable and be ready to go in any direction a director may want to take you in. It's another thing to operate from the point of view of there is already a vision at play.
Yeah.
So when you're a voice actor and you walk into a studio to work with the director has a vision for where he wants this whole thing to go. Not just with what the voice actor is doing. He's also thinking about what the music is going to do and what the sound effects are going to do and the script. And he's also thinking about where this piece is going to live in the world. Is it going to be in morning, daytime television? Is it going to be prime time? Is it going to be during a male-oriented show or a children's show or a female-oriented show? There are lots of things to consider about the product and its placement, which all come back to the kind of voice that you choose for it.
So critical.
My goal in working with the actors and working with Joan was to provide that other half of the equation. And so the way I work with voice actors is with a point of view already established, and I work with them to sort of help me get to the finish line. And there's room for things to change in that process, but you are still starting with a certain vision.
Wow. I really love that, Rudy. I had never thought of it from that perspective, because I've had so many voice actors on the show who have, shared their experiences and their advice and how they would teach if they do teach. Some don't, some do. But, the perspective of, when's it going to air, the music, the slot that it's going into, just all of those different factors versus just what are you trying to accomplish as the actor, but you're thinking of it in the entirety from a director's perspective. That's something I never thought of. And I love that. It's really wonderful.
I wasn't kidding when I said people were eating this up because of the two perspectives together.
Yeah, no kidding.
I wasn't kidding.
No kidding. Well, it's just so deep because, you've got, more of the actor's perspective, Joan, and then Rudy comes from the stronger director background. And I mean, you guys kind of give that full circle of here's where I'm coming from. I've requested a voiceover. Joan comes back with, here's how I approach that. Hey, come and audition for this voiceover project that Rudy submitted. Then you kind of come at it from, what did I do for the audition? Rudy comes at it from, what did I do to analyze Joan's performance, and then kind of to select it and go full circle with making it an actual project, which that's amazing. It really is.
And I also work with people's truth.
Yeah.
Because I connect people to their truth through their voice.
Wow.
And most people aren't. They're kind of detached from that. And that truth is what is the juice for the script, because voiceover demands authenticity.
Absolutely.
And also that authenticity comes out of being uninhibited.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do work from that perspective. And then how that lands on a piece of copy.
Wow. That's really
and another
brilliant.
big truth in voice acting is that people want to work. When people come to coach with us,
Mm-hmm.
or when you train in any sort of job, the idea is that gainful employment is at the end of the rainbow.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So when we work with people, it's not just, hey, let's have fun playing voiceover. The focus is on, you're going to be working one day.
Yeah.
You're going to be in front of producers and casting directors, or you're going to be dealing with them by phone or working with talent agents. And you need to know what it takes, how to navigate those circumstances, and you need to have the skills to bring to whatever might show up for that particular project. So when we work with people, we're always thinking about that person in the real world working, and that they have what they need to respond accordingly.
Instantaneously, because that's the demand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's really wonderful,
We're
you guys.
being hired for our inner life, right?
Yeah.
And access into our inner life. So that's the thing that has to be available. And you have to be able to tap into that or channel that. Otherwise, why not hire the editor? Unless, of course, he's voiceover, right?
Yeah, right. That's funny.
I've met a couple editors with great voices.
Yeah.
See? No, but I mean, other than
They couldn't
editors
do
that do
voice acting,
voiceover,
though.
I mean, why wouldn't they just hire the editor? They're right there.
Yeah. No
And
kidding.
that's the difference.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful, you guys. You guys have dived into so much wonderful stuff already, but there's something else that I really want to dive into, something that's called That's Voiceover.
Whoa.
And it's coming up here in a couple of weeks. So how did it get started?
Yeah.
How did it originate? And tell us a little bit about what we can expect for this coming year.
Well, I'll help you with the how it originated part, because Joan wrote the book Secrets of Voiceover Success back in, I think, the first edition.
2005.
2005. And in that book, it was the first voiceover book that actually incorporated many different voice actors.
Yeah.
So that people could get a perspective from what is now in that book 21 different career journeys.
Wow.
And and begin to see how their lives connected and how they might, how their paths might come to life.
Yeah.
As opposed to one person saying, "Here's my career in voice acting," and you're trying to figure out, "Well, I didn't do radio, so I can't match this career, or I didn't have this or that in my life," and it's harder to try to figure out the world of voice acting from one person's career.
Very true. Yeah.
So but as a result of this book, we'd have the book signings, of course, at what was then very prominent, Barnes & Noble, and a lot of the actors would come, and the folks at Barnes & Noble were never prepared with enough books. And they would say, "We didn't know there would be so many people for this particular topic, and we have to close the store now," and that sort of thing. So we realized, okay, we need
Holy
a bigger
cow.
venue.
You have to close the
Because there are a
store
lot
now.
of people with questions about voice acting. And so we kept getting larger and larger venues. You know, let's get something for 40 people. Let's do something for 100 people. And eventually we were calling it a conference.
Wow.
But it was actually a conference long before we called it a conference.
Yeah. If you're if you're
Right.
shutting down every Barnes and Noble you go to, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's actually the first voiceover conference ever.
Wow.
But prior to anyone thinking of it as a conference, we were just like, hey, let's get everybody together and answer their questions.
Yeah.
And so that goes back quite a ways. But that is how That's Voiceover came into being. It started as question and answer time during book signings.
Oh, wow. So fascinating.
And, you know, I'll tell you a little bit of something about the name, and that is that I was in another acting class. I was in another acting class, and the teacher, again, created the genre of off-Broadway. So
Nice.
legend, right? And he was
Win
talking
Hammond.
about Win Hammond.
Wow.
He actually was the assistant to Stanford Meisner
Wow.
back in the 50s,
Good
right?
Lord.
And then, so he was talking about the 60s and how he had created this event called That's Acting. And when I heard that, I literally, a light bulb, like, And he said that he got it from That's Entertainment. So when I heard That's Acting, immediately I went, that's voiceover. And I was like, it's either a book, it's an article, like I knew it was going to be something.
Yeah.
I didn't know what. And then one night after we did this event, and the event was extraordinary in that it really highlighted the talent and being coached in front of an audience. So Rudy and I were in bed, and we were talking about, and Rudy said to me, what do you think the number one thing a voice actor would want? I said, a job. That's when That's Voiceover was created.
Wow.
And it was built around getting employment, a job.
Yeah.
And
everything we do,
we had
we
already
put it through the
fleshed out
filter.
other things. I'm sorry?
I was saying, Joan's exactly right. And everything we do when we create the panels and choose people to be involved in That's Voiceover, we put it through the filter of, does it lead to work opportunities? Does it train people? Does it teach people? Does it get the right people talking to each other in terms of networking? And each year, we've been able to include actual jobs.
Yeah.
So the audition spotlight, for example, is one of the features of That's Voiceover. And with the audition spotlight, anybody, whether they're an attendee, ticket buyer or not, can audition online for an actual job with a television network.
Oh, wow.
And
so
get
we
paid.
work this deal out every year. And it takes something. It's not automatic.
Yeah.
And to some extent, it's based on my experience working in television that we even sort of understand the ins and outs of how to make such a request of a network.
Oh, yeah.
And also we
Because they
go
don't
into
take
our
it lightly.
Rolodex.
Rolodex.
What this does,
That's
yeah. Yeah, when we dial on a rotary phone, too. And,
That's right.
Wow. Operator.
the great thing about the audition spotlight, the great thing about the audition spotlight is it creates a context for real work.
Yeah.
And then everything that happens at That's Voiceover is within that context. All the seminars you're listening to, the networking that you're doing, it's all colored by the fact that real work is at stake. Opportunity to work, to be paid, and to build new relationships is the ultimate feature of the event, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. And when is That's Voiceover happening this year? Because I know it's coming up in just a few weeks.
Yeah, so That's Voiceover is November 4th, and it will be in
Saturday.
New York City, Saturday, November 4th, at the Time Center.
Okay.
Oddly enough, that's where a lot of this started. We used to do shows at the Time Center many years ago, and it's been a while, and we're bringing it back there this year. Fabulous facility, beautiful stage, beautiful reception area, and right
Absolutely
in
amazing.
the heart of Midtown.
Of Times
It's
Square.
actually the New York Times building.
Wow, guys, that's going to be epic. Bringing it back full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Again,
exactly.
bringing it back to the roots. I love it.
And Nancy
Yes.
Cartwright, we talked about her before we started here. She will be a featured guest. We're presenting her with the Backstage Vanguard Award.
Oh.
This is an award that we created in partnership with Backstage Magazine. They're one of our media sponsors, and they've been with us for, 8 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we created this award with them as part of their sponsorship, and we select one person each year and basically determine what this year's theme will be. And arts and humanities turned out to be the theme this year, and Nancy Cartwright is not only an extraordinary voice actor, but she's a writer, producer, an actor in her own right, and
You know this.
and quite
Oh, yeah.
and quite the philanthropist.
Yeah, she's a
Yeah.
sweetheart. Absolutely, she really is. She's so kind and so generous with her time. But I find that with everyone in the voiceover community, they've all been so wonderful and so kind. And my show wouldn't have been going now over a year without the generosity and kindness of people in the voiceover industry willing to share their stories with me and my audience. So,
Yes. And
Right.
by the way, for That's Voiceover, the people that are actually in it, they're donating their time and services.
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Now, we do have to pay for the facility. We do have to pay for the catering. We do have to pay the people behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But the people that are in it,
Yeah,
They're
all of the
donating their
panelists-
services.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they all show up and pay it forward.
Yes.
But there's also, given that voiceover is relatively anonymous for
Yeah.
most people, just sitting at home in their booths and collecting huge paychecks, the or 1 cent residuals.
I know.
Thank you.
This is a real opportunity for people to be seen and to be recognized.
Very true.
And,
Right.
I love seeing the smiles on the voice actors' faces when they see fans wanting their autographs and recognizing their work,
And also
really
their
knowing their work
profound
intimately in some cases.
Expertise, yeah.
Yeah. And not just the people who've done famous characters,
Yeah.
but people recognize that, hey, you're the voice I hear on the CBS News in the morning on the promos. These voices are a part of our everyday lives. Most of us have some sort of routine to our lives, and voices become a part of that, whether it's on your commute or however, or your television, and so you hear these voices in real life, and it occurs to you that you know them.
Yeah.
Not
And so
only that, but it's like
very special.
voiceover, we're always narrating what's going on in life. The highs, the low. I mean, in every aspect, voiceover is everywhere. But in general, we are narrating life.
Very true.
So you can't help but fall in love with someone's voice that you've been hearing all along. Whether you were a kid, whether you're a teenager, whatever part in life you're in, you realize, wow, they've been a part of my life. And that's
And
a
one thing
huge
that I
honor,
think,
in being
it's
a
important
voiceover.
for voice actors to know that their voices are an extraordinary aspect of our humanity. It's not
Yeah.
just that you're doing something to sell things or even for entertainment and creativity, but the human voice is an instrument for change and inspiration, and that it is your primary tool for making a living is a gift, but it's also one to be understood as far wider than just what you do in the booth, because your voice is something that you're using all the time, and it's an opportunity for you to have an impact on our humanity in positive ways.
Absolutely.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
We're a lot alike.
Yeah, I see that. Absolutely. Well, and the one thing I love that you guys do with That's Voiceover is, Rudy, you mentioned you're trying to, kind of give a light to a group of people that aren't always seen, that are sitting home in their booths. And I do that, the whole reason I created Who Did That Voice was because I wanted to give a voice, in essence, to those who are voiceless. And they're in the voiceover industry. So, it's,
Right.
It's trying to give shed a light on people, like you said, who aren't just, the most popular cartoons. Like I've had Johnny Heller on the show, who's, well known for his voice work on audiobooks, and so, not
Right.
a lot of people are going to necessarily go, oh, Johnny Heller, but that's why I created the show, so that people will know people like Johnny and Susan Bennett, the voice of iPhone, and William Daniels, who played, Kit from Knight Rider, stuff that people don't think is voiceover, but it is, and they just don't realize it as much. And so I do try to shed a light on things like that. And I love what you guys are doing. I think what we do as our entities, both of our companies, do a very similar concept in different perspectives. And I love what you guys are doing. I really applaud you for all that you're doing and for the outreach and impact you guys have on the voiceover community.
Trenton, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Really.
Y'all are very welcome. Well, I have just a couple of quick questions and we will wrap this interview up. Joan, let's go ahead and start with you again. What kind of advice would you give to someone who's looking at getting into our crazy world of acting, and more specifically the niche of becoming a voice actor within the world of acting?
Well, I would first say absolutely understand the business and the craft, just like you would in any other business you wanted to get into. The first thing you would do is get underneath and try to understand what is going on in the actual field you want to be in. Also, there's going to be some kind of financial, where you're putting money behind what you're doing. You don't want to get the cheapest microphone. You don't want to get the cheapest equipment. You don't want to go about things in a cheap way, especially if you want to get paid top dollar for what you want to do.
Yeah.
You can't do it by way of the cheapest way of doing it. You want to be quality. You want to be recognized as quality.
Yeah.
You want your voice to be an asset. So you're going to have to make some kind of financial sacrifice for that. I don't call it a sacrifice myself, but some people might.
It's an investment.
So you really want it. Yeah, it's an investment
in yourself.
In yourself and who you are,
Yeah.
like any other career.
Yeah, yeah.
And the issue with voiceover is that it's a behind-the-scenes career. So people don't really know what it takes, that it takes the same amount of financial effort, focus, drive, passion as any other industry.
Yeah.
Just that most people know how to become a doctor. You know the steps to go about doing it. Even most people know how to become an actor and a singer. But not a lot of people know what goes into becoming a voiceover artist because it's behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it just doesn't go along the lines of education like other industries do. It's not like you go through education and then boom, your ready-made job shows up. You actually have to create it. You have to create your career. You become an entrepreneur and you're asking people to partner with you, i.e. Casting directors, producers, buyers, agents. So you have to be an asset if you're asking people to partner with you. So you have to make a financial investment. And don't be afraid of that. And don't allow money to stop you from doing that. Get the extra job. Go the extra mile. In the end, life has a way of replenishing you. But you cannot be afraid to go the extra mile or take the extra step. Who wouldn't want to hire you if you're someone that does that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So my advice is to dive in full throttle. Also, there's, at this point, there's plenty of teachers out there, but you can definitely, in my mind, you can definitely call the talent agencies. You can even call casting directors and ask them who they would refer in your area to teach or coach you, because someone that's in your area is going to understand the market.
Absolutely.
And you definitely want to work with someone that understands the market. Just like if you are in New York, you'd want to come to me and Rudy.
Absolutely.
Because we really understand the market.
Yeah.
It does make a difference to work with people in person. You can do a lot and accomplish a lot working with coaches via Skype.
True.
That's very popular now. But it does pay to have opportunities, especially if you've never done acting, you've never really had the visceral experience of being one-on-one with your director or with other actors. It makes a difference if you're just breaking into voice acting to be able to be one-on-one with your coach.
I agree.
Because a lot of the training is very much having to do with how you use your body and how the opportunity for the coach to perceive you in a holistic way to know what to provide for you.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Also, building that inertia in that way really creates an impact for when you go out there and you can stand on your own 2 feet. So many people that I work with, when they first come to me, they'll like, I have no idea what to do with copy. I have no idea when I see a piece. I have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost the number one thing I hear. So when I'm in a waiting room and I'm about to go in, I'm thinking, I don't even know what this is or what to do. And these are people in the industry.
Yeah.
Learning how to navigate, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to have a rehearsal process. So you want to work with someone that's objective, that can bring out things in you so that you can bring it to a rehearsal process with your script. Again, it's going to be the difference between getting a job and not getting a job.
Yeah.
That's just how I think.
I love it, Joan.
Because that's
what I would
really
say
the
to people
truth.
who want to break, to add to Joan's, if you want to break into voiceover acting and you're at the very beginning, ask yourself the question that you would ask if you wanted to become not just a voice actor, but a great voice actor.
Yeah.
I mean, no one says, hey, I want to learn piano just so I can tinker around and nobody would want to hear me. You want to become, you want to become a great pianist, right?
Yeah.
And how do you become a great pianist? Everyone knows. You've got to learn music and you've got to practice, practice, practice. Voice acting is the same way. You want to become a great voice actor, and that's going to mean you have to learn the music, and then you have to practice, practice, practice. Now, everything that follows that are tools that you need to trade in the business and to network and so on, but none of that stuff matters until, that's all cart before the horse, until you've got chops.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
you're going to train with someone for that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for sharing that so far. Joan, I really appreciate you diving into more of the acting perspective, and Rudy for kind of throwing in some additional information on it. I really appreciate both of your perspectives. Rudy, I kind of wanted to ask just a little bit of advice from you in the regards to the marketing and directing side. Maybe somebody's looking at getting into a different perspective of voiceover. What kind of advice would you give to them?
Love that.
From a marketing standpoint?
Yeah, from a marketing / maybe I want to become
Directing.
a director. Yeah.
Well, from the marketing standpoint, what I would suggest is that when you're ready to start to market yourself, and that is so you have some skills under your belt, and now you're ready to share with people that you have this skill and you want to be hired. It's a smart thing to talk with people who are in marketing about how you could possibly go about it. Don't run ahead and say, okay, I have an idea for a logo and I have an idea for a slogan, and my favorite color is blue, so I'm going to make a blue website, and just doing all of these sort of first-timer mistakes in branding and marketing that have nothing to do with understanding what branding and marketing is. I mean, it's a very deep subject, and you can get a master's degree, a doctorate, and all that sort of thing as far as marketing and branding goes. So it's so much deeper and more involved than people tend to recognize. And it would be helpful if you know someone who's in marketing, or if you hire someone who's in marketing, to at least give you an overview. And the reason I say work with someone is because everyone's situation is very different.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about an individual marketing themselves and their specific skill set. So when you work with a marketer, they understand how to organize that information for you and streamline it and give you a sequence of events that will allow you to roll it out in a way that will make sense. Because once you jump out there and you've thrown a bunch of things together and in a way that may not really resonate with any specific audience, it's hard to pull back and undo that stuff. It's work to do that. And you see it even with major companies. Everyone remembers Coca-Cola changing the taste of their Coke to the new Coke and having to completely back away from that and get back to classic Coke.
I remember that, yeah.
So, even major corporations like that make mistakes in branding. So imagine you know nothing about branding, you've studied nothing about branding, and you just have this notion that finally I get to choose my own colors, make up my own logo, and push myself out there in a certain way. You don't want to do that without some guidance and some confidence in what you should be achieving by that, and a way to measure whether that is being achieved.
Absolutely.
But I think more importantly is it's the marketers and branders that are hiring us voiceover talent. So if you're going to speak their language, it makes sense that you would go to someone that actually does it for a living to help you market yourself to the people that are going to be hiring you. Not what other people might find is cute and clever, but what speaks to a marketer and brander, the very people that are going to be hiring you. What speaks to them?
Yeah.
That's the important key.
I absolutely agree on that, Joan. And Rudy, I really appreciate your advice on the marketing perspective of it, because I think it is an area that people are not as familiar with. And Joan, even earlier, you mentioned entrepreneurship. I know when I first started my podcast, I had no idea that I was actually becoming an entrepreneur by doing this, not only getting involved with the voiceover industry, which is its own career in its own right, but being an entrepreneur is its own career on top of that. And some people don't realize you have to be an entrepreneur, a voice actor. You have to understand marketing. I mean, you really almost need 6 or 10 degrees just to do voiceover, because there's so many different perspectives that you're coming from.
You are a one-man or one-woman show asking people to partner with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And in particular, people that can either give you a contract or people that can hire you. So it's not about what's nice for you or what makes you feel good, but what speaks to them.
Absolutely.
What will resonate with them.
And you also asked about directing.
Yeah, definitely. If you'll dive into that, please.
Yeah, well, one note I would add about directing for the actor is recognize that the director has a vision that they have to achieve in creating the final project.
Yeah.
And they invite the actor in to help achieve that vision. the director is not a perfect person. The director's direction may or may not be spot on at any given time because, like the voice actor, they're doing it live in the moment under whatever pressures or duress may be present at the time. And with each person that you're working with as a director, you have to find how they listen, how they operate, what makes the session go smoothly. So when I hear talent complaining about directors, or they don't know what they want, they I don't know how the script got written the way it did, and so on, drop all of that. The director is your partner.
Yeah.
The two of you are on the side of the cliff trying to get to the top, and if one falls, you both fall.
Yeah.
So recognize that it's a partnership, embrace it, and let the director lead you. If you're open-minded, you'll see the director is actually working with you, not just leading you, and have a nice, harmonious relationship there.
Absolutely. And
and then the end product will be powerful that way.
Yeah, I totally agree, Joan.
Right.
Well, and one thing you said, Rudy, that made me think, Rudy, we were talking about like if somebody was to, kind of be like, what is this director doing? They don't know what they're talking about. People are listening to you guys. Make sure that you keep your, keep yourself clean. Make sure you say things that are appropriate because you never know who's listening and you don't know how it could affect your career or your jobs in the future based on what people hear you saying about someone else that you're partnering with.
It's so true, and it's such a turnoff, and ultimately it just speaks to the person's skill level to me.
And I only say that, Joan, because I know people do say things and they don't sometimes think about it before they say it, and they don't realize the impact that it's going to have on their career or the lack thereof from that point on.
Well, unfortunately, I think they're saying it to make themselves feel good, like they know.
Yeah, like they're so
they
much
know good writing.
higher above it. Yeah.
They know good directing.
Yeah. Well, if I was directing...
Yeah, but hey, you've got to... And if they were directing, they'd find that, okay, there's a whole different world to understand on this side of the table.
That's right.
It's a wonderful job, voice acting and directing and writing. This work that we do, and make it enjoyable. Be the person who helps to make it a fun experience for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree, guys. Your advice has been profound and extremely wise, you guys. I've just got 2 final questions for you, and we will wrap this interview up. And the first one is something y'all can jointly answer. It's just, how can people reach out to you, Rudy and Joan? Social media, website, how can people connect with you?
1-900-222. No, I'm kidding.
Well, first of all, obviously we coach and work with actors in many different ways. So you can always reach us by email. For me, it's rudy@sovas.org. And there's Joan at SOVAS.org.
And SOVAS is S-O-V as in Victor A-S.
Okay.
And it stands for Society of Voice Arts and Sciences.
I love it.
Also, Rudy and I are both on Twitter.
Okay.
And I'm at Joan the Voice. And Rudy is R Gaskins1 on Twitter. And there's also, of course, our Facebook pages, Joan Baker and Rudy Gaskins. And we're also both on
find
Instagram
us on Facebook,
as well.
Friend us on Facebook.
Yeah.
We're all over social media. We love connecting with people there.
We are all over it.
Coaching aside, we have an active life on social media.
Good.
And just love interacting with people and seeing what folks are up to and sharing what we're up to. So if you're not looking to coach, let's get connected and talk about voiceover and enjoy the voiceover community.
And that, folks, that's voiceover.
And that's voiceover.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Hey, now Trenton, that the day after that's voiceover is the Voice Arts Awards.
Yeah.
So it's actually a 2-day event, and the Voice Arts Awards are going to be another stunning event this year.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
It will be at Lincoln Center.
Lincoln Center, wow. Wow.
So after spending a full day at the New York Times building, we'll be switching the next day for the red carpet gala of the Voice Arts Awards.
Oh, fantastic.
And the infamous Ken Burns will be receiving an award that day, as will Lily Tomlin.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be a fairly star-studded kind of event, but with our people.
I love it.
It's full of everyday voice actors, scale talent, union talent, non-union talent.
That's right.
And and we get to play dress up and celebrate the extraordinary work that we do each and every day.
I love it. I love it, Rudy. Well, Rudy, I've got this one last question. We're going to start with you this time, and then we'll finish out with Joan. Rudy, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Well, I guess I started to talk about it a little bit earlier, which is the power of the human voice to do good for all of humanity. So the legacy I want to leave behind, in part, is the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences. SOVAS is a nonprofit, which means we don't own it. We just run it.
Yeah.
So someone else will take this on, just like the many decades that the Oscars and the Golden Globes have been around. SOVAS will be one of those entities as well.
Yeah.
So it's to the degree that others take it on and continue to have it soar above the bar is the legacy that I hope to leave behind.
I love that, Rudy. And Joan, the same question for you. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
So the legacy I want to leave behind is one of transformation. Being someone that came from a background where I was not empowered, where I was never acknowledged, where I kind of fought my way and my presence into life, one of being truly dedicated to being unstoppable in life, and taking transformation and creating this platform of acknowledgement, of shining a light on people, on their brilliance, and celebrating who they are. So it's like I completely turned my life around, my life experience around, and that's what's built into Society of Voice Arts and Sciences. And so with Rudy, we want to leave this legacy of love, celebration, the voice in many dynamics, and the idea of transforming your life and who you are to become, the shining light that you were meant to be.
Wow, I love it, Joan. That was really beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Trenton. You really created something extraordinary. And thank you for bringing us on your platform, as you have so many other extraordinary people. We are honored.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have been blessed, you guys. It's not me. It's all him. And, without wonderful people in the voice industry who've been willing to share their stories with me, I wouldn't have been here. I don't take the credit at all. I think it's the voiceover community as a whole has made this show what it is today, and the listeners especially. But I couldn't do this without all of those who give of their time and their efforts. And so I really appreciate people out there who've been such a support to the show in any way or capacity. So. Well, Rudy and Joan, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure having you both on the show today. Would y'all please give me a special closeout as we end our episode?
Hi, I'm Joan Baker.
Hi, I'm Rudy Gaskins.
No, wait. No, I'm Rudy, actually.
No, who did my voice?
No, you just did mine.
Okay,
I'm trying
but I want to do my voice.
You do Joan Baker.
Okay. Hi, this is Joan Baker.
And I'm Rudy Gaskins.
And we're on Who Did That Voice?
Who did it?
Well, I don't know. You tell me
Someone
who did it.
the voice.
You tell me
We're just talking about voices here.
Yeah, exactly. And who did it?
Over here.
Yeah, over here.
Well, everyone, I sure hope you enjoyed today's episode with Joan Baker and Rudy Gaskins. And if you did, please find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram by searching Who Did That Voice. I would love to hear from you. A question you might ask yourself is, where can I listen to Who Did That Voice? That's an excellent question. You can hear us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and our website at www.whodidthatvoice.co. Click the Episodes tab and listen away. Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for this episode. Join us this Tuesday for our next special guest, Jay Preston. You won't want to miss this episode. Hey, do you ask yourself who did that voice? Well, if you do, go to our website, www.whodidthatvoice.co, and click on the Episodes tab. Choose an actor, pick their name, and see pictures from the different characters they've voiced in their career.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time for more discoveries on Who Did That Voice.